just speak something, say something?
A, B, C, D.
A, B. Yeah.
Continue.
Buongiorno.
Buongiorno.
Hello, hi. How are you?
Okay, that's fine. Perfect, thank you.
Ok, Ravioli stava per partire. Hello and welcome back in Room Ravioli. Our next speaker is going to be Guillaume Aubert.
Good.
More or less.
Perfect.
More or less, but I did my best. Which is going to speak to us about cross-platforms app dev in Python. Guillaume?
Thank you all for coming. I'm very pleased to be here and very honored to be one of the speakers of the Europython 2013. So first of all, few words about me. So I am Guillaume Aubert. I'm a seasoned software developer / software architect. I've been in the business for now almost 13 years. And as I'm getting old, I'm being pushed little by little towards a managerial position. So mainly I work in the earth science community, so dealing with data distribution system and data handling system for earth science data. And as I said, I'm becoming little by little a manager, and I was missing the contact with the software development. So I've started to 1 year ago, 1.5 years ago, I started to develop a little tool which is called GemVote, and we help you to back up your Gmail mailbox on your disk and also to restore it on a second account if you need to, exactly as it is. So identically as your current mailbox, in case you would lose it or you would have a problem with it. So let's dig in the presentation, and the first slide is a bit of philosophical, and I think as the Python community we have to seriously think of the future of Python and where Python will be in the next 5 to 10 years. We know that Python is very strong in the scientific community. I know it, I'm part of it, and it's used daily by scientists with modules and frameworks such as Matplotlib and so on to deal with scientific data. So there it's very strong. On the web backend, also with frameworks such as Django, Pyramid, Flask and so on, is quite strong as well and very established. But we know that there's a new kid in the blocks in this area. JavaScript is also on the client side, but now it's becoming more and more present on the server side with the Node framework. And as a manager, why would you force your team to learn 2 different languages when you can do everything with only one? And it's quite powerful. So I think in this area Python could become a bit weakened in the future. The second area was on the server side, the third area, sorry, on the server side, to develop application servers, so mainly network application servers. And you had companies like Google where they use quite a lot Python in their infrastructures. But little by little, I think, and with the emergence of the new language they have developed, with the emergence of the Go language, I think they are going to replace the Python in this area in order to use their favorite baby at the moment. And Go is also getting some traction. So Python might also be less strong in this area in the future. So we don't want Python to become the next Fortran, so and only being established in a nice niche, which is the scientific community. We want Python to strive, and we want to look for new areas for growth for Python. So this is what I'm going to try to do during this presentation, and I want to see if Python is fit for developing cross-platform application. So what are the strengths of ISOA? First, why do I want to look at this area? Because since the arrival of these little babies, the smartphone, we've seen the emergence of new distribution platforms such as the iOS App Store. Then it has been translated on the desktop to the Mac App Store. And then you have also many, many others coming in, so like the Windows Store, and then others like the Google Play and Steam that are emerging and are a good opportunity for developers to monetize good ideas and to promote their skills and their software. So I think we should see if Python is fit for being a valid candidate for developing such applications. So let's look at the strengths of Python. So I think Python is fulfilling an old promise that I was hearing during the 90s. So it was in the mouth of marketing people with nice shiny suits, which was the develop once, run everywhere. So the Java promise. So I think Python has done it in its own way, probably in a better way. And we are going to look at it to understand why. So I think now the interpreter can be distributed, is available on all the main platform, and you can, and the standard library modules also are built in such a way that when you develop your application, it will easily run transparently on all these different platforms. So I think this is a big advantage for Python, and one of the features why it's a fit language for developing desktop cross-platform application. The second point is that with Python you can access all the different operating system functionalities with the same API. So the Python creator also was quite clever at the time. Instead of redefining an abstraction for accessing the operating system, all the different features of all the different operating system, he decided to copy the existing one, which was on or developed for Unix, the POSIX API, and provide so the same kind of feature, a little bit translated to the Python world, but very identical to the original POSIX C API. So as a developer, you could really immediately transfer your knowledge from the C world to the Python world. So for example, if you take the file system area with the OS module, you can manipulate file and directories. You can do also path translation and resolve paths and so on. A second point which is quite important also is for developing desktop application, cross-platform desktop application, is to have the capability to access environment variables with a unique interface. So you can do that with the OS module. And why is it important? Because with the environment variable will be the base for your configuration. You will use the user home directory, the temp directory of the machines and so on, which are referenced by environment variable on all the different operating systems to base your configuration and the configuration of your application. I will not go through the rest of the POSIX API, but you can pretty much do with this API everything. So you've got the support for processes, you can spawn fork processes, you've got inter-process communication features, this classical one, and you can even use threads if necessary. All this with one unique API for all the different operating systems. But we all know it's not always sufficient, because you can have, even if each of the operating system features can be accessed transparently or in the same way with this API, each of the components forming the different operating system, they are different. So they can have different behaviors, and developing my application, for example, I realized that. I was not so experienced in the Windows world, and let's say that to be politically correct, that the Windows file system is a bit troublesome. So I had some issues. I am manipulating many files in my application, and I had to adapt my code in order to cope with some limitation of the file system. I did some tests, and if you if you want to list, during my test I wanted to list more than 250k emails spread over 50 directories, so more than 250,000 files spread over 50 directories. It takes 2 seconds on Linux, on the Linux file system, and with the same machine but booted under Windows, it was taking more than 40 seconds. So even with the best possible abstraction and portability features, then you will have to adapt your program in order to support the different behaviors of the internal component of the file system, so of the operating system. So you have to be aware of that. Another very interesting feature is that you can extend easily Python and bind Python to the library of the different operating systems. So it was another clever, I think another clever features provided from the beginning by the Python creator is that if you, I think he realized that you could never build an API or an abstraction allowing you to access all the different specificities of all the different operating systems. So it's just providing a way to adapt to that. So you can use the simple Python API for making some bindings to some C, C++ DLLs or shared libraries on the Linux or Windows world. And you can do the same for the Mac OS X world with PyObjective-C, PyObc, and so on. So this is very powerful because you could imagine in your application to access some specificities of each of the file system and of the operating system, sorry, and the different operating system, and still build a cross-platform application, which then would have then probably little areas where they would be specific for each of the different systems. So what is missing then to have Python being really powerful in this area and to promote Python in this development of cross-platform application? So the first point is regarding graphical interfaces. So with Python we have two very nice widget toolkits that are accessible. We have the WX Widget Toolkit and its Python binding, WX Python, and the Qt Widget Toolkit and the its PySide Python binding. So all these two toolkits are very powerful. They are cross-platform. They provide a native UI look and feel, and they are very powerful because you have many widgets and you can build very complex graphical interfaces for the users. The community also around these frameworks is very lively. So it's they are evolving quite quickly, and they are well supported. So what is the problem then? The problem is the following. This is one of the examples I took from the WX Widget Toolkit web page. This is one of the applications they demonstrate. You cannot put that in the hand of standard users. I mean, now people are again used to this kind of graphical interface, so very nice user interface with a good usability and so on. And this kind of application, coming more from the beginning of 2000, are very complex and have a very difficult look and feel for standard users. So I think this kind of widget toolkit are still very valid for in the business world, where the features will be more important than the look and feel. But for a normal standard user like my grandma or my mother, if I bring a very nifty application with many interesting features, and it has this look and feel and this usability, she will never use it. So we have to find another way to build a graphical interface. And especially when we have in the world the web stack, so JavaScript, HTML5, CSS3 is available, and many graphical interfaces have been built with it. standard users are used to the web look and feel and web interface. Also, developers, we are really familiarized with this kind of with the web stack. We have all built some application and web servers with it. So I think we should we should try to use as much as we can this the web stack to build our user interface, because we won't have to learn a new framework, because also what I mentioned to say is that I forgot to mention, sorry, is that usually the widget toolkit are quite difficult to grasp. They have a steep learning curve. You need to understand the widget, the layout, you need to understand how to skin them, etc. It's quite complicated. It's a complicated business. And we have already invested some time and some skills in the web stack frameworks. So, and an extra advantage is that if you use this, the web stack, and that your application on the desktop and your application gets some traction, you can easily transform your application into a service, as you will already have the graphical part, if you want, already defined. It will be easily transposed as a web service. So I looked for some frameworks allowing me then to provide a web look and feel, if you want, use web technologies for developing the user interface, but still having Python in the backend for building my business, the core part of my application. So there is a nice framework which is called TiledTie SDK, and provide you these features. So you can develop the graphical interface with JavaScript, HTML, and you can still, in the backend, use Python, for example, or other languages. There is some bindings to build your business, the core part of your application. Then you can, with Python, you can access some JavaScript objects and vice versa. There is a bridge. So I don't know if you know about this application, but the Wunderlist application, which is a nice to-do list, has been done with this framework. There is one problem though with this framework, is that is not evolving very quickly. So I think the support is not as strong as I would like to have it behind such an application. So I'm not sure how long it's going to live. And also, in addition to that, the deployment might be a bit complex with this framework. So I decided to go and to took another path, and which is my choice, is to use the Node WebKit framework, which is an open source framework, which is using Chromium for the rendering, and which is using Node for the backend. So in my case, I'm using the Node for the UI backend, so for managing the user settings and storing preferences for the users. And I'm still using Python for the business part, because I also wanted to have the possibility to provide a command line, GemVote as a command line tool, as it is right now. So this is more, I think this is more work than using the previous framework, because it's a bit more DIY, and the Node WebKit is a bit less mature in some ways and so on. But I get more freedom, and I can do exactly what I want. The second area that I wanted to touch is regarding the packaging tools for applications. So, and this is an area where there are some issues, so it's critical, I think, to provide the best possible packaging for the users, because this is the first thing that the user will encounter regarding your application. So you will go to a website with a nice presentation, fantastic features regarding your application, and then he will try to install it. So we need to provide the best possible installation for the users. So if we look at the different kind of packaging, we know that we have the PyPy module shop in Python, which is fantastic, with pip and virtualenv. I use it daily. I'm very happy about it. It's something which is fantastic. But again, if this is not for my grandma or for my sister, this is for you and me, geeks and nerds. Sorry, Python Pythonista, Python aficionados. And I think we can offer this kind of packaging for Linux, but it's not possible to afford that for Windows or for Mac OS X. So for Windows, if I take the Windows example, for Windows what you would need is to have a self-contained package, and you could, so where you would put all the modules and assets regarding Python in a directory in some kind of container, and you could build that by yourself manually, but it's a bit tedious, and especially when there are already some tools that exist. Is the sorry, we don't see, but there is a tool which is called Py2exe, which builds an executable from your Python assets. So it will put all the interpreters plus the modules and so on, will compile the modules and will create a Windows executable that you can easily after deploy and execute on Windows. So this is nice. But the issue is that the Py2exe application, if you want, or module is dying. It has not been evolving since 2008. The documentation is lacking behind, and then it's quite difficult when you have when you want to do something a bit more advanced and fancy in order to package your application. It's quite difficult to find the information about it. So if we don't do anything, and I don't know also about the Windows 8 support, I've not tried it yet, but there are probably some issues because the runtime has changed in some areas, so we'll have to look at that. So in order to solve the solution, we need somebody to support that. So this is the French Uncle Sam, this is Super Dupont, which is there to save France when we have issues. So it's there to force somebody in the community to start working on the packaging areas for the different operating system. On the Mac, just one word on the Mac OS X world, there's also a similar set of tools to package your Python assets in one executable, one bundle, and this one is well supported and working fine. So this is it about the looking at Python and seeing if it's a valid candidate for building desktop applications. I think it is really a valid candidate, and we just need to provide a little bit more tooling and a little bit more facilities for the developer to really embrace Python in this area. And as I said, I think there is a revival in building this desktop application. And so we should, somebody in the community should focus on that and try to provide the right tooling for that. So a few words about my open source experience. So as I said, since last year I have released a software which is called GemVote, which allows you to back up your Gmail account on your hard drive and to restore them exactly as they are. And I decided to do that because my wife's account was hacked 2 years ago, and she lost and immediately the first thing the hacker did was to completely delete the mailbox. So she lost, I don't know, 5 to 6 years of emails, and for me, all my life is in Gmail, so I didn't want to be in the same case. So I could have done one thing probably is to ask the NSA or the CIA to give me a copy of my emails, but I decided to rely on myself and to create a tool for doing that. So I released it a year ago, and it got a bit of traction and was a reference on the many technical websites. So there has been up to now more than 70,000 downloads for the tool, which is quite a good success for myself, so good personal success. So yeah, a few tips if you want to embrace the open source community and start developing. You will need to free some time. And so this is what you should do. You should kill your television. Get rid of your television, as the NetZatomics dustbin were saying during the 90s. So this is what I did when we moved to Germany 3 years ago. As I was not speaking German, me and my wife, we decided to not take the German TV. And I think it was the best decision I did in my life. So because it freed many evenings and many times that I could dedicate to my own personal hobbies. So I think you should do the same. And then a few words about what the open source will bring you. So this is the opportunity to have your own personal tailored training. You can go on whatever activity you want, whatever technical framework and technical skills that you want to develop, you can do it in an open source project. This is also very good for internal interrelationship skills, because you will have to talk to people, you have to deal with users, you will have to deal with committers if you want to integrate more developers in the project. And then your CV will shine because you will demonstrate that you have something personal that you could do, which is different from the out of the company world, which is different from the other candidates. And then it's, as I said, it's incredibly rewarding. I'm talking daily to people all over the world, and I get lots of support, and even for a little tool like the one I did, and for me it's really, I get lots of proudness out of this activity. And then you will have a unique sense of freedom and control, because in companies we all have constraints that from our management and other historical reasons that we do not control. Here you do what you want. You can integrate a team of a project which is already existing, or you can create your own application and try to make it alive. So I think it's a unique sense of freedom that we can get in this world, in our business world. And finally, if your idea I think is very good, you can probably find some ways to monetize it. But I don't think you should dream too much about it, because it's probably not the point. And I would always recommend to have two license schemes, one an open source one, keep an open source one, and find a way to have a financial one, a license one, where you would probably have more features or these kind of things. Finally, 3 words about the tools I have used to promote and develop my open source software. Of course, GitHub. GitHub is very good. They got everything right. So to manage your source, to manage your issues, to manage the documentation with the wiki, and even they can even host your website. For example, the GemVote website is hosted by GitHub. It's very easy to do. Testing, test, continuous integration. So I'm using Jenkins as a user, and as a user it's very good. So every time I commit something on GitHub, there's some hooks that on my Jenkins servers, then the source code is downloaded and the test suite is run. So this is a fantastic tool for that, and it helped me to improve the quality of the software. And then finally, the Hacker News on the YCombinator news site. Once your application is ready and mature, do not hesitate to publish it on the Hacker News. This is what I did 1 year ago, and it got a bit of traction. GemVote was #1 for a day on the Hacker News. And this is how I attracted the attention of the different technical websites. So you should not hesitate to do that. If you have a good idea, they will recognize it. So this is it. Thank you very much. Any questions?
Hello, have you tried using Travis CI instead of Jenkins?
No.
Have you heard of it?
Yeah, I've heard of it. I've looked at it a bit at it, but I had some problems because I needed to transfer some test data in order to perform my test suites, and it's a bit big, and so I stopped looking at it, but it's definitely also another alternative, yeah.
Actually, I have a question.
Yeah?
Can I not?
Sure.
Could you tell, I'm really interested about GemVote, okay? Mm-hmm. But how does it work? Are you storing all the emails on the back end?
No.
In your own...
It's not. It's storing all the emails on your hard drive.
Ah, okay.
So you get all the emails. The emails are in the standard EML format, so an ASCII format. So you got all the emails and attachment in your hard drive.
Wow.
So you keep control of your email. I think after the adventure we had in the next few weeks, something which is quite important for individuals. So when you have to realize, I think that when we put information on the cloud, it might be available not only for yourself but for somebody else, like governments and other institutions. So it's quite tricky. But at least here you keep control of your emails. So after you are free if you want to copy this email database, if you want, or repository on the cloud to make a backup copy or not. You can also encrypt automatically. The emails can be encrypted when they are stored on the disk. So you have some way to protect the data if you want to.
How did you build the application? What technologies did you use?
It's Python, fully Python based. So Python, I access it's based on the IMAP API of Gmail. So interrogating the IMAP API, getting all the images. Also all the assets, the Gmail assets, the labels, the stars and so on. Everything is also backup. So when you restore your email, you will recreate the exact copy of your mailbox. Because most of the also backup services, I don't think I've not tried them all, but the one I've tried, they were not doing that. So they will restore the emails, but they will not restore the labels and things like that. So you will use part of your mailbox when you do that. So
yeah, I think it's really, especially as you said, the last 2-3 weeks, things have happened, and I think it's a very interesting service. What are you using for the GUI of the technology?
Currently, it's a command line tool, so it's not yet available for my grandma. But, hopefully, I'm building the GUI, and this is what I said. I'm using Node WebKit.
Node WebKit, okay.
So I use a Node WebKit. So I went as I said, the web stack way. So it's the UI is built in JavaScript with web technologies, and then in the backend I call Python for making the backup.
But I just had a look at it right now. Like when you said I was really interested, I looked it up, and so basically for what I'm saying, the way I saw it is basically you're using Node.js. You can use Node modules in the client-side template.
If you want, we can say it's a bit more complicated, but you use a Chromium for doing web browser or the WebKit for doing the rendering, and then you can use Node. So in theory, I could replace Python and do everything within Node in JavaScript. But I wanted to keep the business part in Python because I still want to provide the command line application for powerful users like us, for example, that want to do a fancy thing with.
But then say this: if you're using Node on the front end, right? Then as a JavaScript on the HTML, right?
It's WebKit and Node.
Yeah, but then can you use like common libraries? Or would there be a clash? Like, would there be some problems?
From Node libraries, you mean?
No libraries, like JavaScript libraries.
Yeah, sure. I use jQuery in the application that I am developing. I use jQuery, I use Bootstrap and everything. So you can use standard JavaScript library, and you can use the Node modules in order to access the operating system. So I store the preferences and so on. This is done in JavaScript for the user preferences. And I use the Node modules for accessing the file system, for example.
It's really interesting. I'll have a look at it.
I can show you at the end of the presentation. This is one example of application. So it's very web-like. So it's an application which has been built with a Node WebKit and built for some kind of telephonic communication company or something like that. But you can make some pretty nice interfaces if you want. So the web technology, all the web technologies are available, so you are free to do what you want.
And then the good thing is you don't have to target 1,000 browsers because this is embedded with Chromium, right?
Yes,
so it's the Chrome engine and V8 or whatever. All right.
Hi, did you look at p installer instead of p2x's? because it generates executable for Linux, Windows, Mac OS X
Okay.
easily with one single specification files.
Okay.
So you should look at it.
Yeah.
It's very active.
Okay, I'll have a look at it. Thank you.
Okay.
I didn't know about it.
I wanted to know if you know about Kiwi, the framework. I just attended a conference here. Did you have a look at it? What do you think about it?
I knew about it, but I didn't have a deep look into it, so I've not invested myself into it, so I cannot provide any comments.
Okay, I would suggest you to look at Kiwi. It's very nice.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
All right. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you.